Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. This is Chapter 7. Chapter 7 is about access control and privacy enhancing technologies. Access controls are a crucial layer of data management and security. By access controls, we mean any electronic mechanisms designed to limit the availability of data to users within an application. Electronic mechanisms that limit access to the application itself, such as a login and password, would fall under information security. Numerous aspects of an enterprise's privacy policy will rely on access controls as a means of ensuring proportionality in data access, controlling data usage, and enhancing security beyond the broad system access level. Access controls are quite versatile. There are ways to control access to the information itself, such as access control models, and ways to control what you can do to the information once you have access to it, like access types. Access controls can even be used to limit the knowledge of the data's existence, separate from the contents of the data. This hiding of the existence of a record can be an important part of safeguarding privacy. The more precisely access controls can be defined and the more flexibly they can be applied, the more policy options that become available to those trying to create a robust privacy protective regime around the use of the technology. Such flexibility reduces friction with the technology and supports creative innovation. An effective, flexible security environment must allow many users to have multiple and varying access permissions in order to utilize data with multiple and varying access restrictions. There is no single ideal configuration for this security environment. For example, small organizations with a limited number of users who access data for the same general purpose may only need a few basic access control options because users are authorized to see broad cuts of the data. But larger organizations with a significant number of users each accessing data for a wide variety of purposes will likely need greater diversity of access control options. So selecting the right one will depend on the specific context in which the system will operate. System designers can choose between several levels of access control granularity. Okay, number one is network or system level security. Users in this configuration are given broad access to the data in a system. They can access either an entire network of database or the entirety of a single database. You can envision this as the electronic equivalent of a large filing cabinet with a single lock on it. When the single lock is open, the entire contents of the filing cabinet are available. Number two, collection level security. Data within the system is maintained in various distinct data structures, such as database tables. Users can access an entire coherent collection of information within the larger data system but be restricted from others. In this case, each drawer in our filing cabinet has a separate lock with different users having different sets of keys. Once they open the drawers, they have access to all file folders and their contents within that drawer. Number three, record level security. Users are restricted from accessing information on a record by record basis. In this case, our filing cabinet metaphor start to become insufficient. But imagine that once a user has opened the file drawer, there was some means of controlling which folders the user could open, at which point the user would be able to view all of the documents within that folder. Number 4, cell level security. In this configuration, access is controlled on a data point by data point basis. For each level of granularity of chopped data in your system, there is a separate access control for that discrete segment of information. By now, our metaphor has all but fled the field. But you could think of this as some means of redacting the documents within the folder on a page-by-page basis, depending on each user's authorization. And lastly, subcell level security. Here, you are not only controlling access to the data in your database, but also data about the data or the metadata. Metadata may include information about the time and date of the creation of the data in the system, the system user who originally input the data, previous modifications of the data, and other information relevant to the creation and use of the data. At this point, our metaphor is in tatters. One way to understand this would be to imagine a separate filing cabinet next to our original filing cabinet, where the new filing cabinet has all of the aforementioned data about the first filing cabinet stored with its own cell level access controls. When we refer to access control, we are talking about providing access to restricted area of our businesses. But familiarity and wielding its power correctly to protect proprietary information are two completely different levels of understanding. For example, who gets access to what? What are the rules? How it is tracked? You first have to identify and authenticate a person before giving them access to private information, which means the basics of a control system include criteria and records for every time someone enters the system. Depending on what kind of organization you have, you'll want to consider a couple of broad ideas: what level of ownership you want over the system, and how you decide which employees get access to what. There are many types of policies, all with different benefits. Most common types of access control systems are mandatory access control, or MAC, discretionary access control, or DAC, role-based access control, or RBAC, attribute access control, or ABAC. We also have rule-based access control, identity-based access control, and history-based access control. Okay, for this chapter, we only discuss about 4 access control. Okay, number 1, mandatory access control, or MAC. Okay, the mandatory access control system provides the most restrictive protections, where the power to permit access falls entirely on system administrators. That means users cannot change permissions that deny or allow them entry into different areas, creating formidable security around sensitive information. It even restricts the resource owner's ability to grant access to anything listed in the system. Once an employee enters the system, they are tagged with a unique connection of variable tags, like a digital security profile, that speaks to what level of access they have. So depending on what tags a user has, they will have limited access to resources based on the sensitivity of the information contained in it. This system is so shrewd, in fact, that it's commonly used by government entities because of its commitment to confidentiality. Okay, second is discretionary access control or DAC. Okay, a discretionary access control, on the other hand, puts a little more control back into the business owner's hand. They get to determine who can access which resources, even if the system administrator created a hierarchy of files with certain permissions. All it takes is the right credentials to gain access. The only disadvantage, of course, is giving the end user control of security levels might cause some oversight. And since the system requires a more active role in managing permissions, it is easy to let actions fall through the cracks. Where the MAC approach is rigid and low effort, a DAC system is flexible and high effort. Third is role-based access control or RBAC. Role-based access control attributes permissions to user based on their business responsibilities. As the most common access control system, it determines access based on your role in the company, ensuring lower-level employees are not gaining access to high-level information. Access rights in this method are designed around a collection of variables that map back to the business, such as resources needs, environment, job, location, and more. Most owners like this approach because it is simple to group employees based on the kind of resources they need access to. For example, someone in human resources does not need access to private marketing materials, and marketing employees don't need access to employee salaries. RBAC provides a flexible model that increases visibility while maintaining protection against breaches and data leaks. Okay, lastly is attribute access control or ABAC. It drilling down level deeper. This type of system gives different dynamic and risk intelligent control based on attributes given to a specific user. Think of this attribute as components of your user profile. Together, they define your access. Once policies are set, they can use these attributes to read whether or not a user should have control. These attributes can also be obtained and imported from a separate database, like Salesforce, for example. Privacy enhancing technologies. Privacy enhancing technologies, or PET, or PETs, a broad range of technologies like hardware or software solutions that are designed to extract data value in order to unleash its full commercial, scientific, and social potential without risking the privacy and security of this information. It's also known as a disruptive set of technologies and approaches which, when combined with changes in wider policy and business frameworks, could enable the sharing and use of data in a privacy-preserving manner. They also have the potential to reshape the data economy and to change the trust relationships between citizens, governments, and companies. What are common privacy enhancing technology examples? Most people like to use encryption, anonymization, pseudonymization. Encryption using cryptographic algorithm. We have homomorphic encryption. Homomorphic encryption is an encryption method that enables computational operations on encrypted data. It generates an encrypted result which, when decrypted, matches the result of the operations as if they had been performed on unencrypted data. This enables encrypted data to be transferred, analyzed, and returned to the data owner, who can decrypt the information and view the results on the original data. Therefore, companies can share sensitive data with third parties for analysis purposes. It is also useful in applications that hold encrypted data in cloud storage. Some common types of homomorphic encryption are partial homomorphic encryption, somewhat homomorphic encryption, and fully homomorphic encryption. Partial homomorphic encryption can perform one type of operation on encrypted data, such as only additions or only multiplications, but not both. Somewhat homomorphic encryption can perform more than one types of operation. For example, addition, multiplication, but enables a limited numbers of operations. Fully homomorphic encryption can perform more than one types of operation, and there is no restriction on the number of operations performed. How about anonymization? Anonymization is a data processing technique that removes or modifies personally identifiable information. It results in anonymized data that cannot be associated with any one individual. By analyzing anonymized data, we are able to build safe and valuable products and features like auto-completion of an entered search query and better detect security threats like phishing and malware sites, all while protecting user identities. They can also safely share anonymized data externally, making it useful for others without putting the privacy of the users at risk. How about pseudonymization? Pseudonymization and obfuscation fall under data masking techniques. Okay? Obfuscation is one, in a general term, for data masking that contains multiple methods to replace sensitive information by adding distracting or misleading data to a log or profile. While pseudonymization, identifier fields or fields that contain information specific to an individual are replaced with fictitious data such as characters or other data. Pseudonymization is frequently used by business to comply with GDPR or General Data Protection Regulation. Another technique is data minimization. Okay, it collects minimum amount of personal data that enables the business to provide the elements of a service. And lastly is communication anonymizer. Anonymizers replace only identity like IP address, email address with disposal or one-time untraceable identity. That is all the lecture for today. Any problem? You can chat with me in Teams chat. Until then, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.